What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Zach, Sonic's GM, Mr. 0-3. It is time for our favorite segment in all the RBSL. They say rings last a lifetime, but they ain't shit compared to a good GM ranking. So let's get to it. We are doing the GM rankings. It has been a long ass time. We got a new GM, Yogesh. We got a couple other new GMs who had no results prior in Alex and Palm. And of course, we got just a bunch of stuff that has happened. We got new data to analyze. I have come up with new reasons why you suck. And you're going to find out over probably the next hour why that is. So, as you can see on the screen in front of you, we got the tiers. We got the GMs. If you don't see your GM little icon here over to the right, don't worry. I got some saved off screen. I'm just trying to maximize my screen capacity. And I couldn't find a good way to fit everybody on without a bunch of ugly ass white space, so don't trip. And we got the tiers. You already know how this works. We got the bad tier. I'm not bad. I'm just not trying. It's a new name. I felt it captured a lot of the people who are going to end up here really well. We'll get to it. We got the What is Rand 2 tier. That's a keeper from last time. The Ed tier. Perfect balance. Win some, lose some. The Zach loves to hate tier because I find that a lot of people that end up here, they think they're better than this. They all have aspirations of being a God tier GM, but they ain't. They got to learn to accept that. And then finally, of course, the God tier, the one and only. So before we hop into these rankings and I go GM by GM, I do want to make a note. Last time when I did these rankings, which was a long ass time ago too, it might have been 3 months ago, I really felt like I was too easy on the top of the pile. I think I put like 8 GMs at the top. And so I really am going to do my best this time. I'm going to separate myself from the results. I don't give a shit how many rings you've won. I am just going to give you the pure, honest Zach opinion of how good I think you are. Results are a combination of luck and GM skill. So if you've been lucky, I'm going to call your ass out and probably give you a worse rating than you want. So my goal here is to not have a logjam at the top. I think that was a weak-ass bailout that I was doing to placate ring winners. I don't give a fuck what you've won. We're going all in this time. So without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, and one last thing I'd like to say. I have a bit of a cold. I do have a beverage. So if you see me stopping here and there to take a drink, I apologize. But I need the lubrication so that these golden pipes can go to work today. And with that said, I will take a drink. Oh, beautiful. So, let's get this started off with our boy in the top right corner, ring winner of not too long ago, Mr. Shane Sullivan. So, Shane has basically, I think when I last did the review, the GM rankings, Shane had just won the ring with Chuck D. And since then, Shane has basically done jack shit. I'm trying to recall if he's done anything like notable in the meantime. Pulling up the stats on Shane right now. He might have won a playoff series. He went to round 2 once and then round 1 and round 1. And it's not like that was a shocker. It's just like Chuck D is dying and so is his entire team. Shane hasn't done anything to change my mind. I respect the whole riding out the God tier player, the cheat code that you owned in Chuck D. But Shane, there's not a lot to talk about. Shane tries. He's kind of capable when he tries. He never really pulls together anything where I go like, holy shit, that was well played. But he also doesn't make terrible ass moves. Like all the trades he's tried to do to keep his era alive, like acquiring Lubo and actually trading away Lubo this season, getting Basil Moore, blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of players that come in and out of Indy. They're all fine. I'm not super impressed. And the results show that they haven't really done anything to change his fate. So I'm pretty mad on Shane. I think Shane will fall right in the middle of the Ed tier for now. Shane is like the, perfect Ed tier guy. I think Shane plays to the level of the players he owns. Not above, but he also doesn't ruin his team actively. And there's going to be a lot of GMs who actively ruin their team. Shane's going to find himself right in the middle of the Ed tier. Up next, the Golden Dong himself, Mr. Kyle Idowin. who has also had a pretty up and down time since we last did the GM rankings. He's had some tank seasons, and like he had a very strong pull out of the tank with a 57-win season, went to round 2, beat Evan in round 1 in a 7-game series last season, and now has a team that is one of the West contenders. Although this year, if you're a contender, calm your ass down. Your team's actually not that good. We really don't have very many contenders in the West. Like Idowin's sporting a 6.6 plus minus, acting like that's a contender. That's a round 2 team. In most years, we just have a weak ass year, which is great to watch. I just don't have as much respect for the success of your team. And so, to be honest, Idowin was probably at the top. By the way, I didn't look at these rankings, my previous rankings, before I went to these. I just want a fresh take. I'm less interested in making sure I have the continuity and more interested in giving you fresh, out the oven, hot takes about, what I think of your performance. So getting back to Idowin, the reason I say all that is Idowin has had a lot of success, but my hot take on Idowin is that he fucked this up so hard, this tank. He knows it too. He caught some L's with like grandma dying, and I think Thomas Franklin died too. But I also just think really the only thing that's saving him and leading him to success right now is like Doc giving Idowin like a shimmy friend touchy deal on Zupan. Like I don't think most people were gonna get that deal on Zupan, but Doc and Idowin are butt buddies, so they use that to get it. So you can kind of go two ways on Idowin. You can say, man, he fucked up his tank. Like this is like we're seeing the peak of what the Lakers are gonna be if you look at Idowin's team. Everybody's 29 or 30. Zupan's 30. Mickelson's 29. Bean Dip is 28. Like, this is the prime of this team. And maybe he could make a conference finals. I don't really expect him to go past that. I think the Nuggets and the Jazz and maybe even the Warriors are better than him right now. We'll see. And last season he won 57 games. This year he's on track to win significantly less. I think right now if we extrapolate his current win total, he's like a 52-win team. So I was disappointed with this iteration of what Idowin has done. He caught L's with the bad TCs, but I also just felt like I never was like a huge fan of Grandma, 3-point shooting Grandma to begin with. And Thomas Franklin, was fine. He's like a defensive big man. Nothing crazy. I don't think he was going to change the game. And he's actually playing pretty well this season, to his credit. But still, I just never was super hyped about this Idowin rebuild. Idowin has shown that he's got the ability to pull like a playoff team together. That's a bar that he has hit. But this team has no championship aspirations. And if Doc didn't come with the little save-your-ass stimulus deal, I think it would have been 1 year and done year for Idowin last season. So all that being said, I think Idowin's going to get a bit of a downgrade. I think he was in the Zach Loves to Hate tier. I'm going to push Shane down to the bottom of the Ed tier. And I'm going to put Idowin right a little higher in the Ed tier so that we have a nice little space for Ed when we get to him. Now, that brings us to Jesse, who has had a pretty up and down go of it. It's been the Svatos era this whole time. I think, when I reviewed Jesse last time, it was right after he won 68 games and lost in round 1. And Jesse has gone on to basically do nothing with Svatos, who I think most people agree. I don't want to get into whether he's a cheat code or not, but the man is the best offensive weapon maybe ever. He's scoring 40 points a game on 68% true shooting right now. That's unbelievable. No one has done that before. Unless you discount what Michael Campbell is doing this exact season, which is also fresh, this is like unheralded territory. Like literally, this is going to be the greatest scoring season we've ever seen in the league, hands down. There's no question. So the problem is Jesse hasn't done jack squat with it, and it's even worse because I feel like Jesse could have. And up until literally a day ago, when Jesse made that trade for Singleton, or maybe that was 2 days ago, Jesse just spoiled it. He just let Harold Allen get older. He just let August Benz get older. He just let Ricky Lopez go away, although he brought Ricky Lopez back for what it's worth. All of those moves, they were just trash. It was I think Jesse would admit this. I remember talking with him. He said it's because he's been busy with other stuff and hasn't had time for the game. Totally understand. It just means your ranking's going to go down. And Jesse is just like, yo, he had that god tier draft where I want to say he definitely had 2 top 5 picks. He could have just kept Svatos and Hernandez. Could have. And yet, instead, this is what we get. We're going to get 1 round 2 performance. Like, Jesse, I don't even know if Jesse's going to make it out of round 2 this year. I think it's like a coin flip. He's going to get a tough matchup, right? He's looking like he's going to be the 6th seed right now. If you're the 6th seed, that means you have to play some good-ass team to make round 2. So, like, Jesse, through the Svatos era, as we see so far, there's a lot of hype on Jesse's team, but I'm waiting to see the results because Jesse is so consistently underwhelmed. I mean, it's just all trash GM like material. Jesse, I mean, this is a great stat, I think, that, sums up Jesse. Okay, so Jesse just went to round 2 last year, and the last time he had made it that far to round 2 before that was in 2089, which was roughly 30 seasons ago. So that's 30 seasons it took him to win a playoff series. And it's not like I feel like Jesse has turned over a new leaf. I just think Jesse got a better player than he's ever had before, and now he's producing at a slightly higher level. So for all those reasons, not a big fan of Jesse. Even less of a fan than I was before because he's really proven he can't do anything with so many assets. Jesse's going to find himself into the I'm not bad, I'm just not trying tier. And the reason I named that tier, as you'll see, is Jesse is one of many people who has been like, I've just been busy. And okay, that's fine, you've been busy, but guess what? Your results, they garbage. Get the fuck out of here. Next, Doc. Doc, a lot like Idwin, has been very up and down. He went to the finals. He tanked. He was tanking when I was doing these rankings last time. Since then, he has gone to the finals, and now he's tanking again. So Doc is just like, he's all over the place. And so, the credit to Doc, he pulled together a finals team out of nowhere. It was a weak year to give him credit, but at the same time, he was the best team that entire year. And even more credit to Doc, it was kind of a mysterious team. I'm not sure anybody understood why that team was as good as it was, even Doc himself. It was a great team. I mean, I know Zupan was money, but the rest of that team, I think it was shocking how good they were. So Doc gets a bunch of credit for that. But if you look at Doc, and maybe you think this is a good thing, but he's basically splitting, he's missing the playoffs half the time and he's competing half the time. And so if you were to, ignore his final season, the last decade has been brutal for Doc. Granted, going to the finals is a huge boon. And so, I think Doc is pretty, he's flexible and he's, smart about all this stuff. He pulled the plug on that finals team because he knew nothing was happening. Or excuse me, not the finals team. He brought him back the next season. They were poopy, and he pulled the plug mid-season, and now he's back to full tank. So, Doc goes back and forth, but he consistently shows he understands how to put a quality team together, going to the finals. So it had been a while since he's gone to the finals. So I still like Doc. Maybe, Doc is one where it's I think I'm going to knock Doc down a little bit, though, because he's just been tanking so much. And, that goes against you, right? If you need to constantly tank, while I get it, you're trying, that means you're also failing. So I'm going to knock Doc down a pretty significant tier on this one, despite the fact he recently made the finals, because he has as many seasons of missing the playoffs as he does going to the playoffs for basically the last decade now, last 15 years even. And that's not so good. He's going to find himself right next to Idwin. It's actually poetic justice that these two are next to each other anyhow. I honestly think they are basically the exact same quality of GM. They have good ideas. They have a minor positive impact, but they also consistently just come up short of the mark, I guess. So yeah, oh, wait a second. Refresh the throat. All right, the next GM. We got Austin. Austin's been something of a GM mystery. He's basically just been feeding Max all-star players for the last 5 seasons until this year that we are right smack in the middle of as I create this video, where he's finally got a contending team. And, it's not a great contending team, but the West is ass. And, so he could very well be a conference finalist, despite owning a plus-minus of 3.5. It's just the West is so bad. So when I think about Austin, the biggest thing I think is like, okay, he's had a while to tank with his Mavericks team. I think he's done 2 years of extremely hard tanking, and his team has like some potential. I don't love any of his young guys. I don't love Josh Green. I don't love Jerry Orman. I don't love Roger Gatwell. I don't love Angus MacGyver. They're all like fine fill-in players. So the biggest takeaway I have from Austin for these last 3 seasons is just like, what the hell were you doing? Maybe you weren't paying attention much. Like you brought in some good veteran talent and like potato juice. Which one should I actually say? Is it potato juice or potato juice? And Michael Doty. But despite that, when I look at what you've done through this giant tank, the only player I like out of your tank is Serafim Karamona. Everybody else, it's like, why did you waste all that time tanking to get nothing? So it kind of feels like that's what happened. Like he tanked all this time, and yet he doesn't have a lot to show for it. And he only has his own pick, so it's not like he's saving up his assets. So I think the big step for Austin, like I'm going to knock Austin, because Austin has previously been like one of those GMs, I feel like, along with me and Yanez, who has pretty consistently been considered like, oh, they might be God tier, they might not be God tier, or top tier, whatever you want to call it. Like the guys who are right below the classical list of all the top people, Max, Brian, Adam, blah, blah, blah. I think Austin takes a big fall now, because it's like, when Austin comes out of the tank, I think the expectation is he's got a banging-ass team, and he just doesn't. So I think Austin is also going to find himself in the high ed tier. I'm losing steam on Austin, and it's twofold. One is because of the feeding Max good players, which we'll get to when I do Max in a little bit, because it's just my favorite thing to harp on. And then 2 is because it's not like I love this Mavs team. He's got a plus-minus of 3.5. But even more importantly, I just don't think he's in a great place to like win games. Like outside Serafim, who's honestly a one-dimensional scorer more than anything. He's a damn good one-dimensional scorer, let me be clear. The boy's going to get buckets. I just don't think he's got like a comprehensive team. And it's not like he saved up a bunch of assets. I'm interested to see what he tries. I'm sure he's got some plans. But I don't necessarily see it going above a round 2 team right now. I don't see like a finals favorite here. But speaking of people who I potentially do see as finals favorites, we have got, I got it. It's the two Slovenian mountain men. I'm pretty sure this top one's Gasper. In fact, I'm confident this one's Gasper. So it's Gasper, and I was just talking about, like building young teams that have hope. And Gasper, although his team is in a weird place and he's been tanking for a fucking eternity, let me see how long he's been tanking. He's just trying to pull out of this tank now, and he's tanked for 1, 2, 3, 4 years of insane tanking where he never won 10 games. Last year where he was trying to build his prospects. Now this season, he still looks short. This season, the East is competitive. He's going to miss, I think. But he's got a team that, depending on how things shake up, definitely has the core of a team that could be a contender. Because everybody's going to get notably better. And he's got a lot of really respectable assets and young guys. So, like, Gasper right now is going to take a giant step down in the rankings, because I firmly believe you do not need to tank as long as Gasper did, which is 6 seasons, to build a championship contending team. We've seen it over and over. I've gone to the finals with a team that tanked for 2 seasons multiple times. Brian's done it. A lot of teams have fucking done it. Kyle's done it. Even Max's team, I think, did it too. Max might have tanked a little longer. But 6 seasons is insane. Like, in my opinion, if you're coming out of a 6-season tank, the only way to justify that is a dynasty. Like, we're talking, like, back-to-back rings minimum. So Gasper looks like he could have a really good team, but really it's going to be critical going forward for him to see, like, he's got to consolidate. He's got so many interesting young guys, but, like, he's got to keep a couple and trade a bunch and turn that into a contender. So, he's in a high leverage moment right now, and we'll see what comes out of that. Excuse me. Sorry, this throat is killing me. So I think for Gasper, overall, he continues to be like, this is what he did with the Brian Wilson era too. He just stacks talent and he hopes someone breaks through. We'll see if someone breaks through. But Gasper's going out of the God tier. I understand what he did in the past. He won a finals. He won one championship. He went to the finals 3 other times. But like, what have you done for me lately? And like, if you look outside of that in the prior instances, he went to the conference finals a bunch. But like I said, I'm going to be harsher on people. I think Gasper is being way too patient, way too slow. And so while he gets some credit for what he's done in the past, and I do think he has potential to have a great team, I also need to dock him points because he hasn't done jack squat and he's lost a ton of games. And this is going to represent the second time he's been quote unquote contending, or he's a purgatory team, I guess, where he's going to win somewhere between 25 to 40 games, which means like you're not fully tanking, but you're also trying to win. And like, I get it, it's for prospect development, but I think those are just wasted years in the RBSL. So Gasper's going to find himself right in the middle of the Zach loves to hate me tier, which is perfect because I think a lot of people will take that as a slight on Gasper. All right, next we have Yanez. And, when I think about Yanez, like, he won. Okay, so everybody knows Yanez won another ring with a different era of players. Nobody carried over. We're past the Bart Smith era. This is the new Darren Geller era. So, like, I think a lot of people in their heads, they're ready to make Yanez a god-tier GM. I mean, how many GMs have won rings across different eras, let alone back-to-back? Like, Yanez has had 2 eras in the league. He's won 2 rings. Or actually, excuse me, he's won way more than 2 rings. What, he won like 3 with Bart or something, 4? And yet, it's just like, I mean, the good fortune with this man, it just does not stop. Like, Darren Geller plus TC, Chuck Aaron plus TC. Like, he just pumps out the plus TCs. I'm kind of torn on Yanez because, on the one hand, like, he's made good moves as a GM. Acquiring James Bryant, I liked that move. That was pretty good. People talk about how he acquired Darren Geller. I don't really agree with the acquiring Darren Geller is a great trade. Darren Geller plus TC'd after he acquired him. Chuck Aaron, he just straight up drafted and then he plus TC'd. So it's tough. I mean, look, Yanez is good, but I'm not ready to put him in the god tier. The way I think about Yanez is like, he understands how to capitalize, and he has done that. But at the same time, like, bro, every single thing that could have broken his way has, like, in the most critical way. He's had 2 guys who were essentially top 5 picks. I realized he didn't draft Geller, but like, he traded for him before while he was just like a normal top 5 pick, and they plus TC'd. And I mean, they were the foundation of his success. He did make good trades. He traded for James Bryant. He traded for Vinko Brezic. And those were fine trades. And that's why I think he's still a high-ranking GM. But I'm really kind of ignoring the rings because I think the foundation of that was Darren Geller and Chuck Aaron. Because they plus TC'd. I said that like 3 times now. So, I mean, that's why I think Yanez is not going to end up in the god tier. Yanez is going to be in the top of the Zach loves to hate tier. Because until Yanez just like, I don't know, like, to get into the god tier, you got to do something really special. And like, special doesn't mean necessarily just winning rings. Like, it's harder than that. Like, I need to see more than what Yanez has seen. And it's like Max syndrome, but not as much, where it's like, I mean, he just keeps getting everything good going his way. And so, like, okay, cool, dude. Like, that's great. And you're going to get a high rank. But I'm not going to put you in the god tier until I see something more. And so, like, maybe if he brings out a bunch of rings in this era, I would respect that. Also, for what it's worth, he did win the ring that 1 year. The rest of it, since his Bart era, has been pretty grim. I think he tanked for 7 years. Let me look really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He tanked for 6 years. And outside of winning the ring, which is obviously a big deal, he's lost in round 1 every time. The backing data outside of the ring is also not super indicative of a god tier GM. And I think as we get to other GMs, we'll see there are GMs who just pump out great seasons. So again, more reason why Yanez finds himself at the top. He's got the rings, but there's a bunch of other stuff that he needs to catch up on. Next, Max, a polarizing figure in my internal dialogue as I come with these rankings. Max is a 2-sided GM. In terms of performance, season over season, era over era, Max is unquestionably god tier. He basically went from Guo to Piggy. So Guo, he won a boatload of rings. I don't know what he won, 5 or something. I think he won 4. Then he went to like the Piggy era, where he made a couple conference finals. And then he went to this Rojo, Fred Miller, not Obi Toppin. He did have Obi Toppin, but Brody era, where he has gone to the conference finals 3 times and then just won the league. And looks primed, honestly, to at least go to the finals this year. He looks like the clear best team in the league. If I had to pick a finals winner for this season before it happens, Max would be the betting favorite without a question. And so it gets dicey because it's where did all that come from? Especially, I might add, this most recent era. Brody was just like a good old standard tank for the first pick. But it's Fred Miller and Rojo. And so I've harped on this again. And, it's my fucking milk carton, so I'm going to stand on it and talk. They both came from Austin. For trades, like we look at what's happened to Austin, but when we look at what's happened to the Heat and we look at what's happened to the Mavs, despite those trades, I think it's fair to say those trades weren't worth it. And so to go to the next level, you think like, okay, well, is that Max being a great GM, or is that Max basically cheating? And cheating is a strong word. It's like, whatever. It's the fucking fake basketball league. Collusion, the tampering. And I thought about it for a long time. And you know what? I hate it. I am mad that I lost to a team that I think was some napkin trade bullshit with his best friend. But I think it makes Max a great GM. Like, at the end of the day, this was like always what Jason said, I think. It's like, it's about cultivating relationships. And Max has been cultivating someone as his long-term friend and then abusing him like a fucking redheaded stepchild for his superstars. That's fucking great GMing, dude. That's elite GMing. That is GOAT-tier GMing. He's got a team, like, we'll look back. This team could have been legit. Maybe it will end up looking like a dynasty. Max could have very well easily won the finals in any of these 3 previous conference finals in 21, 15, 16, 17 before he finally won the finals. Like, his team has been bananas. And so, like, I hate the way he got there, but at the same time, I kind of respect it. I would never do that myself, I don't think. But when it comes to winning the game, it's a very good way to win the fucking game. Very, very good. And so Max, in every era, has gone to the conference finals at least a couple times. He's won the finals a bunch. He's won nearly 70 games in every iteration. Okay, it was like 68 this time and 69 the one before Guo, but like, that's a shitload of games. That's hard. I respect that is hard to do. He's going to the playoffs way more than he misses the playoffs. So all of it, like, this is going to be the shock for the league. I'm going to put Max in the number 1 spot this time. Part of it is a change of heart because, call it collusion, call it tampering. It is. It's also good GMing. I'm willing to accept that. So I'm going to give Max the top spot. Little shocker for you. Next, we've got Ed. And Ed is living in a circle. Like, time is a flat circle for Ed. Like, Bobby goes away. In comes fucking Anthony Edwards to be the next shooting guard who's going to score 55 points a game while his team sucks butt. So, like, that's what Ed's doing. Anthony Edwards is going to score a shitload of points. He's not as good as Bobby ever was, but he's pretty damn solid. Ed's team is not pretty damn solid. I don't even know if Ed's going to make the playoffs this year. In fact, I actually do know the answer to that question. He's not. Ed is, been on the verge of the playoffs for like the last 4 seasons. It's been pretty ugly, and it's only getting worse. Ed's team, he did a lot of tanking. Real talk, there were some notoriously garbage trades that Ed has made. Like that, he traded he traded Columbus Lawson for that frickin' FIBA guy, the FIBA big man who plays defense. I forget what his full name is. And goddamn, he did it with Shane. Holy hell, was that a bad trade? That just sticks out as one of like the timeless, like, worst trades I've ever seen. I don't think Ed pays too much attention. I don't need to put that disclaimer on all these bad people. I always do it to like make you feel better. Fuck you, you know what you did. You've been bad, Ed. trash, honestly. Like, really garbage. Like, borderline can't make the playoffs. And so it brings me much pain. Ed won't even be in the Ed tier. The man represents balance, but unfortunately, 41 and 41 is really bad for this league. Like, you want to be going down and then up, or just up. And so there has to be losers. But until Ed, like, he's always sitting on, like, solid talent, it feels like, but it's never coming together, and he needs to make more trades. Like, I know everybody knows Ed is capable, but how long until he's actually not capable? You know, Ed hasn't been doing a ton with his boys. And also, just for what it's worth, it's not going to change my mind. Ed did catch just some garbage TC luck this last year where he lost Ruiz and someone else to minus TCs. Ugh, you hate to see it. But Ed's just got like an eternal history of bad results now. Like the going to round 2 is like Jesse level bad. The only thing Ed has is more playoff appearances. So for that reason, Ed's going to get a tough ranking this time. I hate to break it to you. Ed is going to the very bottom of what is round 2. Like I said, I'm going in on folks this time. I'm removing all preconceived notions. I'm looking at my opinions. I'm looking at results. I'm filtering out based on luck. It's going to be tough. There are going to be haters. Deal with it. Next, Evan. You know, speaking of people who go to the playoffs a lot in choke, we got Evan Spellman, who, to be fair to Evan, has made the conference finals once since he's joined the league. Whoop-de-fucking-do. But he hasn't done a lot other than that. Holy shit. My man's won 60 games once since he's joined the league. Made round 2 a smattering of times. I'll give him credit on the round 2 thing. He's made round 2 like 5 times. 6 times. I don't know. A lot. But that's it, dude. Like, he's had talent come through. Hernandez, Watkins, Campbell. I realize some of these guys are plus T seed. Connolly, not plus T seed, minus T seed. Some minus T seed, some plus T seed. They like go up and down. All these dudes have different arcs. But like, Evan has had talent, and more than anything, which is a credit against Evan, is I know Evan has tried hard a bunch. Evan will probably hide behind the he hasn't tried since Out of the Park started. Fair enough. You tried hella hard previously. And it's just like, I always wanted to say like, oh, it's just like he's catching some bad breaks, but you know, he's doing really good. But like, dude, it's the data has piled up too much. Evan's problem is just like, I think Evan is always scared to go all in. Evan like always loves to keep a back door like to his team. He won't sell out for like the ultimate team, knowing he might suck for a little bit afterwards. And you can see it in his results, right? He's consistently making the playoffs all the time. But he's not doing good in the playoffs, right? So he's like, and you can see like this year, for example, you could make the argument this year, Evan is a favorite in the West. In terms of plus minus, he's leading the West. So like Evan is the favorite, but not by much, right? Like the Jazz and the Lakers and the Warriors, because their stats are all fucked up because they got Bobby late or just recently. Like those are all teams that can make it. Evan's sitting on his 2022 first, I believe, if the HTML is correct. And it's like, dude, you couldn't use your 2022 first to make a trade to upgrade in a year where you're probably the favored contender before it all goes to shit when Oliver Connolly gets old and costs you too much money and you have to sell somebody. So it's stuff like that I think has always been Evan's issue. Is I just don't feel like he's selling out much. He used to sell out, although he had other problems back then of just like talent evaluation. Like I remember him getting Kirk Hubbard for like selling his picks on protections for an eternity. But Evan is just lacking like every time he's coming up short. And I don't even know if he's committing to the wrong players, but like it's just so consistently like every GM who I put above him has shown an ability, I think, to like go far to like conference finals. Evan has made the conference finals once in 25 years. So that's not very good. So where is that going to land Evan? Like I said, this is a brutal GM rankings. Evan is going to be in the middle of the Ed tier. One other trend I think I did previously that explains this is like, I don't think people's rankings are necessarily going to drop in numerically, but the tier you're in is going to drop. I'm trying to normalize the rankings more to a bell curve because I think previously it was all concentrated at the top and a little bit at the very, very bottom where like the truly dog shit people are. Now we're going to spread it around a little more. So like there will be people in the middle. There will be people in every tier. which makes sense because I think I want to create a feeling of distribution because I think that's fair. And speaking of creating a feeling of distribution, we haven't had many folks at the bottom, but we got Alex. And let me tell you, there ain't a lot to talk about with Alex. He's been here for 2 seasons. It's been an ugly 2 seasons. This boy's going to the bottom. I'll put him where he belongs before I get into the breakdown. Alex, you're going to the very bottom, my man. Alex has been, what is it, 4 seasons now? Is it really 4 seasons? I don't know. I don't know if Alex was there in 21-15 where they only won 8 games, like the hardest of hard tanks. But Alex immediately sold everything he had, which was, theoretically a good amount of assets. Going back to that Rojo Max Austin trade. Actually, maybe not as many assets as we thought. And he did win 49 games. So to be clear, if you think about how good a 49 games is, it's actually like borderline respectable. But while that's respectable, he didn't make the playoffs, although in 99% of seasons he would make the playoffs. But what makes it worse is that he immediately couldn't hold it together and then won 30 games the next season. So if he had started an era of winning 50 games over and over, then I would have a lot more respect for Alex because that's the start of a dynasty. Not a dynasty, just like an era of contention. I'm using the word dynasty a little liberally right there. So realistically, Alex, he blew his load early and he didn't blow very good, and now his team sucks again. I don't know. It's just a bunch of short-sighted garbage that he did. I respect, and it's another one of those where it's the effort level was high and the results were low, and boy, you want to trip down the GM rankings to the bottom. That's how you get it. You try hard and you fuck it up. So I respect the effort, but I mean, dude, the results, nothing went well. And now Alex is he's got this bad team. He doesn't have his pick this year, but he's got it the year after. So I think Alex is just throwing whatever shit he can together this year because he's got no reason not to try. And then maybe he'll re-enter the hard tank and maybe he'll pull something together. But coming out the gates, not a great start. So Alex, you're going to the bottom. And then next, we're on the new GM script. We got all the new GMs back to back to back. We got Palm. So Palm is kind of just upgraded version of Alex. Palm started out, he did his tank, and then he got impatient. He sold everything for Campbell. And, Palm last year was a big disappointment with Campbell because theoretically that's as good as Campbell was going to get, although the stats disagree because he's just been unquestionably better this season. But he lost in round 1, is that right? I want to say he lost in round 1. He lost in round 1. So he won 53 games, but he blew it in round 1. And his outlook this season, in terms of win totals, he's looking slightly better. I think he's on pace for a high 50s win pace instead. Maybe he might hit 60. He's right on the borderline. His plus minus isn't good enough to hit 60, I don't think. But, he theoretically could be a finals team in this unbelievably soft year we have. I suspect it'll be between him and Evan. We'll see. But, what Palm did with the team, I now that we have a little bit of data to go off of, I think there's no question he oversold for Campbell. He paid too much. Granted, Campbell has been a transcendent legendary player who this season is putting up an all-time great season. We'll look back if he holds these stats. It may be it will be one of the most efficient offensive seasons of all time while playing all level defense, and he can pass. So he's a full unicorn. We saw what he did in the GOAT League. He's a beast. But at the same time, the results, unless Palm literally goes on a finals run this season, he sold out for this. So there's kind of 2 aspects to Palm. There's the Palm won 16 championships. He's not even close to that shit right now. I mean, forget winning however many championships he won with the Jazz back in the day. That ain't happening. This man will be lucky to go to the finals right now. He's going to get, if he were to go to the finals, he'd get roasted by whoever's coming from the East. But then there's the Palm who's new in the league, and you consider a new GM who's ranked 30th, and he's clearly better than that. I got to give Palm credit. I like Palm in the Ed tier. I think Palm is clearly good. I think he got a little impatient, but at the same time, so the choice to go in on Michael Campbell was not necessarily a bad one, but he overpaid. He got a little too into himself, not himself, just into Campbell. And so he paid too much that he couldn't construct a good team around him. And while I think he's done a solid job constructing the team around him, I think it's been like Shane-like in that ability. Maybe a little better. I think he's done a little better than Shane. I just don't think like it was a good choice. And I don't know if Palm knew that. Maybe he was expecting more from Campbell, but like he either needed to acquire Campbell with a trade like that, like a couple seasons earlier, or save some assets. Like even at the time, I thought it was an overpay. Like this isn't just 2020 hindsight shit. So for all that, Palm is clearly going to be an elite team in the West this time. So he's proven he can make the playoffs. He's probably going to make the playoffs a bunch because Campbell's not going to immediately die. He's still purple, even though he's a little old. So Palm's in the Ed tier. I'm going to put Palm right next to Evan. I think we're going to see like round twos out of Palm a bunch, lots of playoff contention. But I'm not a believer until he shows me the ability to go a level up from that to really get him into the Zach loves to hate tier. And then finally, we got Yogesh. Look, there's not a lot to talk about with Yogesh. Yogesh is terrible. He's the most annoying person in our chat, off-topic chat, I should say. And he's a bad GM. And, I don't know if Yogesh is actually a good GM, but he just doesn't give a fuck. So, like, I don't take offense to this, Yogesh. Like, you don't try, and the results show it. Like, that's fine. That's basically what happens to everybody who doesn't try. This game requires a minimum level of effort, which you are not meeting, and as a result, your team is bad. So while Alex tries hard and hasn't succeeded, Yogesh has succeeded far less, but at the same time isn't trying. So they're both at the bottom for different reasons. And dude, like, are you serious in the off-topic chat? Is that really who you are? Like, I refuse to believe it. It's like a caricature of a caricature in the off-topic chat. Anyways, really blowing my mind. That shit blows my fucking mind. Next GM, Marco. Marco, he's our lovable loser. He continues to be that. I mean, Marco hasn't done squat in an eternity. I'm looking when he last made round 2. I mean, he made round 2 in 2085. Like, we're going to be talking about how he hasn't made round 2 for 40 years in not too long. Oof. Like, he makes the playoffs every once in a while. For that reason, he kind of gets elevated out of the true garbage. But, like, even the playoff making, he's done it with losing years. Marco is so consistently in purgatory that sometimes he just catches a break. So, Marco, going to the bottom, buddy. Again, Marco, he's got other things going on, but the results, bro, they're bad. I almost want to put Marco in the bottom tier, but I have just like, everybody loves Marco so much, he just gets a little bump. It's the homie love. So Marco finds himself not quite in the bottom, but I mean, dude, like, and his team's got no outlook in my opinion. I love Roy Brewer, but the rest of it's just ugly. It's just random shit thrown together is honestly what it feels like. So next, Rick. Now, Rick has been on the ascent since he's gotten the Iguana era. Since getting Iguana, first of all, I'm just going to do this for a while because it's so impressive. Rick broke a nearly 20-year-long playoff cold streak. What do you call it when someone misses the playoffs? Drought. Like, it was a 16-year-long playoff drought with the Iguana era, and he just kept doing what he's doing. He's actually improved his win totals most recently. He's won over 50 games 3 seasons in a row. And he's won playoff series a couple times, and he nearly had one of the upsets of the era when he almost beat Brian in 7. He lost the final game. I think he was up 3-1. Maybe he was up 3-2. That was saucy. So all that goes to say, I don't think Rick's a great GM. And like what he had in Iguana and Quirk is like there's two sides of the coin. So Iguana plus T-Seed was unstoppable. I don't really give Rick a lot of credit for doing what he did with Iguana. I think Iguana was just like good fortune. Now, what I do give Rick credit for is he literally single-handedly revitalized the career of Eldon Quirk, who I think a lot of people thought was trash. Now Eldon Quirk is old and dying, but he strung together Eldon Quirk's 3 best seasons, these 3 last seasons, when I think nobody thought Rick was capable of doing that. I don't think anybody thought Eldon Quirk was capable of that. yet let alone Rick being the GM to unlock him. You know, when we talk about GMs unlocking players, we are usually talking about all these like try hard ass motherfuckers at the top. Rick fucking did it in a big way. What Quirk has done recently has been impressive, and it's resulted in his teams winning more games. So I think that's like, I just don't want Rick to not get credit for that. I think a lot of people will still look at Rick and be like, oh, he just got iguana and it went well because he got iguana and that's why he's won these games. Part of that is true. I also think Rick deserves credit for what he did with Quirk. You know, holding strong, changing a lot of people's minds on Quirk as a player maybe. Like, I think a lot of people would have hated Quirk all up prior to these last few years, but I feel like it's hard to deny what he was these last years. He was just a damn good player. Scoring 60% true shooting, like that's efficient offensively, you know, like playing tolerable defense, good rebounder. So all of that makes me more bullish on Rick. And so I just went on this tirade talking about how good I think Rick is. All that gives me Rick at the top of the what is round 2 tier. You know, Rick clearly can play the game, and he's got more game than he lets on, and he's shown it. But he's still a little short of the ed tier. Because it's tough in this new ranking system to get to the ed tier. I'm not just handing out handouts. Well, gotta rework that saying. I ain't giving handouts here. You gotta win something serious. Maybe if he had won that Wizards series just for the memes, I would have given it to him. But I honestly think this is where Rick belongs. I think Rick's got game, but he also, like, I don't know if it's him not paying attention, or like just not understanding. Whatever it is, he's still missing some pieces to the puzzle to really bring it all together. Next, we have Ken, the Magic, who are potentially looking at a little era where they go to the finals, the Trilford era. Trilford's been a beast, and holy hell do I love the team Ken has this year. I mean, I love great defenses. It's like kind of my thing. And sweet baby Jesus can have a good defense. I haven't looked, but I'm guessing his turnover percentage, he must force turnovers like a motherfucker. I don't know if I can check that on the HTML. There's a way to do it. I can look at his team page. I just want to see because it's got to be number 1. Turnovers, number 1 in the league. 19.1 forced turnovers. Not a shock. He also turns the ball over the most. So, lol. But, you know, Ken is a GM. I think Ken has improved. I've been a huge Ken shit on Ken guy. However, and I think Ken has made some good moves with this era. He's also gotten fucking lucky. Like, that's just like a staple of Ken. But I think, like, when he traded away Vito Patterson, I think that was a trade where he just annihilated Fendi. I thought that was a great trade. You know, the Robert Melendez trade was with me. I don't think I got robbed, but I think it was a smart move for Ken. It was like he had to give up basically all his critical assets that he had left to get someone who could potentially take his team over the top. I respect moves like that because it's required if you want to be a contender. Like, you got to sell out at some point. So those two moves I think were great. Trilford just had 2+ TCs after he acquired him in a trade that was a fair trade. So, like, you know, that's just like, oh, we've got an era out of nowhere. Whoop-de-doo. And then the downside is, I think him acquiring Duncan Buckner was just, I think Ken knows this now, it's just bad. It wasn't worth it. It was a stupid decision. That contract is heinous. It's really like, the problem for Ken is like, that contract is probably the reason he's not the finals favorite right now. If he could have gotten rid of that contract at any costs, he could use that salary to be a much, much, much better team. Like, if he had that for free agency. So it's a mixed bag. Overall, improvement from Ken. I think, like, yeah, he has just made, there's more good moves than bad moves at the end of the day. And even if Wilford hadn't double plus TC'd, because he double plus TC'd, I think Ken is like a finals contender. But if you had double plus TC'd, I think Ken was looking at a chance at a conference finals either way with this type of team. Like, it's a team that's got a theme, defense, plays damn good defense. This is going to be like a generational defense. So, yeah, I like what Ken's been doing recently. I think previously Ken's kind of been like a top of what is round 2, bottom of the is ed tier. I'm going to put Ken at the top of the ed tier along with Doc, Idowin, and Austin. Big fan of what Ken's done lately. I think a lot of this rides on like him being successful in the playoffs with this team.
If I'm not mistaken, Ken just made a conference final, so he's shown that he can do that. He just needs to do more of it, and I think Ken will get even more credit. He can even enter the Zach Loves to Hate tier, make some great trades. And then finally, before I bring up the next set of GMs, we got the big bicep, Mr. 5'3", Brian. So Brian has kind of been, all over the place. The standard Brian fashion, he kind of finished out his little Slovenian era of Lejuice and Lubo and whoever the hell else it was, and is back into the hard tank. And with Brian, it's just like, there's not a lot to talk about. The dude wins. He shits 60-win seasons. He's won the finals a few times. This last era, I've already talked about this. He caught a bunch of breaks on his way here. None of the people he drafted in that 21-08 tank season died. Everybody lived. Lots of them offered extensions. So he caught huge breaks, but he also produced huge. He won 70 games 3 times. He won 60 games 5 times. He won a finals. He went to an additional finals. He went to the conference finals an additional 2 times. So all those stats are money. I do think he's a money GM. It's just simple. He's going to go to the top. We'll see what he does with this era. With this more recent era, he's clearly tanking multiple seasons back to back. He owns a lot of picks, but I don't love the picks he owns. I think most of them are trash. But he's just going to keep trading, right? The cycle's going to run. I think Brian's thing is he's going to try and leverage picks that people want to get back as they tank, and that's going to be his little strategy as he goes. But I'm interested to see. But again, even though Brian caught breaks, his results have been so damn good that it's not like I can hold that against him. He's just been playing good basketball. GMing good basketball, whatever you want to call it. So for that reason, I'm going to put Brian at the top. I'm going to leave Max in a tier of his own for now, though. As good as Brian has been, I think I'm going to highlight Max this time. Maybe by the end of this, I move Brian up. They're real close. But I was hoping to have a single guy at the top. It's dramatic. It's nice. So for now, Max will hold the top alone. And I'm going to go pull up the rest of these players.
And voila, we have got the next set of GMs on the list ready to go. The final, 12. So let's get to it. We got Fendi at the top of the list. So, Fendi, it's just, he hasn't done anything recently. I don't even know if he's made the playoffs recently. That's the Nuggets post game. We're going to move that. Nuggets were very bad today. It's unfortunate. Fendi's track record in terms of results has been terrible. And to go on top of that, I don't think Fendi has made any good moves either. Yeah, Fendi's made the playoffs once in the last 8 years, 10 years, somewhere around there. He's tanked for a fucking eternity. And it's not like he has a team that's crazy good right now. His team kind of sucks, and he only has some assets for this season. He doesn't have any extra lotto picks, it looks like. It's a mess. It's a catastrophe. In particular, I thought the Vito Patterson trade was atrocious. That was maybe one of the worst trades I've seen in the last 5 seasons. So that, combined with the lack of any results, the only thing I think Fendi does good is he is good at drafting. He picks good draft picks, but he always fucks it up because he gets rid of dudes, he doesn't keep them. Fendi finds a way to get good players on his team, and then he consistently ruins it. So Fendi is going to find himself near the bottom. I'm going to put him with Jesse. In fact, I'm going to put him with Marco. His results have been so bad for so long. Whatever clout he got from the Grady Wilson era of being consistently good, it's all gone. It's been total dog shit from the Pelicans for a long time. Sorry, Fendi, you're going to the bottom. Next, we have the GOAT, Sonics GM, Big Zach, myself. How do I rank myself? Well, obviously I'm fucking really good at the game. But specifically, I guess I could say I proved the haters wrong by going to the finals again with a team without a star player. I guess Bobby Boucher was kind of a star player. It was just a well-rounded team. It's always these well-rounded teams with me. So going to the finals again, that was really good. It wasn't like elite god tier path to the finals like you might say like Brian or Max, where you're winning 68 every time. I won 60 games back to back. I did lose in the first round with a 62 win team. Not an upset you like to see. And I lost in 6 games too. Really, that's probably like the all-time low for me. But if you go by result metrics, I'm elite. Going to the playoffs all the time, not tanking very often, winning a lot in the playoffs, lots of finals and conference finals appearances. So all that's good. And then in terms of like how I actually think about my team building, I've made big mistakes. But my mistakes, I think, are more missed opportunities to impact my team positively than actively hurting my team. I'll give you an example. Like 4 seasons ago, Bryant offered me this crazy good trade this was Wilma right after minus TC, Wilma Lou and some random ass first for Benz. And I didn't take the trade. That would have been a huge win for me. Could have put my team over the top way back then. This was when Benz was still like 29 or something. And I had the gel team, I should have taken that trade. I didn't take it. So I consider that a knock against myself. But on the flip side, I don't think I'm taking these trades that are ruining my team either. Like, I'm consistently moving in the right direction. Like the gel to Nebo to Bobby Boucher whole trade saga, like, I think that was a net win. And I really think I have a lot of assets right now. Like, I'm on the verge of having potentially 4 lotto picks in this upcoming lotto for a draft alley. So overall, I think I'm playing the game really well. There are results that aren't perfect. And I still see room for improvement for myself. But I think at this point, I've won enough and I've done enough good trading that has worked out well to prove my place. But I think I won't put myself in the God tier quite yet, just because I think while I play like a God tier GM, I'm missing the results, and I'd rather be harsh on myself than just like jerk off to myself. So I think I'm at the top with Yanez of the Zach Loves to Hate tier. A little self-deprecation. Who doesn't like that? And speaking of deprecating on people, we have Oliver next. There's not a lot to talk about. Oliver's probably the worst GM in the league. There are some new, fresh contenders. Yogesh is a very strong contender. I think Alex will rise up eventually, but his results have been terrible. But I mean, Oliver's done nothing for a long time. Oliver is one of the worst GMs in the league. That's not a surprise to anybody. Everybody already knows that shit. There's just not a lot to talk about with Oliver. Man hasn't won shit in forever. He consistently makes terrible moves. His team right now is a total catastrophe. I don't know. Like, there's no signs that Oliver wants to get better or that he's capable of getting better. And he's just like the glue of the league from a cultural sense. Like, Oliver is so good for the fun of the league, but damn boy, are you so bad at the game. It is impressive. I mean, shit, dude. Like, are you really holding on to the corpse of Sat Gibbs right now? Why? Well, why, dude? Just makes no sense. So, we'll see what happens with Oliver, but I don't think anybody has any doubts he's going to the bottom of the barrel. Oliver is one of the worst GMs, and what's interesting is I think some of our previous worst GMs are going to finally climb out of the basement, but Oliver is a mainstay, man. The dude is just like, he is elite at being bad. I think only Carey has matched the consistency that Oliver has shown. Although another strong contender is coming up next, and that is Dan Houseman, the GM of the Blazers, the man who maybe doesn't exist. It's actually not entirely clear. And what's most impressive about Dan, I was talking with Jake just the other day, and he told me that this year was supposed to be an all-in playoff push year for Dan. That is Dan, who may only win 20 to 25 games this season, does not own his pick this year or next year. Overall, really looks like a man without a purpose. And if he honestly thought this was supposed to be a playoff push year, I mean, sweet baby Jesus, how ignorant are you? I believe specifically he thought trading for Lyle Neely was going to change everything for him. And while Lyle Neely has produced, the idea that Lyle Neely is the difference between your garbage-ass team and a playoff berth, it's so misguided. So, Dan has made the playoffs, like, pretty consistently with the bones of that Dave Hammond team. But then he got rid of it. It's been a catastrophe. Those recent playoff berths are the only reason Mr. Houseman is not in the very bottom row. He's going to find himself one row up. But goddamn, I'll be honest, I think he's headed towards the bottom of the bottom because there's just, I don't know, since Dan started playing, I don't know if he's shown me a single move where I've been like, yep, this is it. He's a baller. No, not a single one. So it's always him moving backwards, him making bad decisions. So, you know, he's near the bottom. Next is an interesting one. Mantis, Spurs Dave. Mantis has had a couple good years recently. He went to round 2 twice, and the conference finals once. I forgot about the fact that he went to the fucking conference finals with that fucking Hammond Barkley team. So it's actually been something of like a golden era for Dave. If you look at just in terms of playoff performance, what he's done in these last 3 seasons, it's absolutely been the best 3 seasons back to back to back of his entire history joining the league. He did have the early McCarty days. He went to round 2 quite a few times with that team. But this is even better. And I've always been a big fan of Dave. You know, Dave plays it low key, but he actually is a guy who, like, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I respect his willingness to just fucking go all in, try some shit, understand he's on a clock, know it's gonna burn up and explode, but do it anyways. We saw that way back in the day when he acquired some old ass players. And I forget who that vet squad was. Like, was it Toby Bowman? Way back in the day that he got an old ass Toby Bowman? I don't remember. But this time it was the same thing. He got an aging Hammond. He got Barkley, 2-star players. Fuck trying to build a team from the draft. He just picked those 2 motherfuckers and ran with it, and it worked really well. So Dave, like, the big ideas he comes up with, I like. All around the edges, the plays, like the decisions are pretty questionable, and I think that's why he hasn't seen more success. Like the teams he's building around these dudes are consistently like underwhelming or not ideal, or he's not getting a perfect value, and that's why his results, like we're seeing round 2s. We did see a conference finals, but I think that's why we're seeing him compete for only 2 or 3 years at a time, and it's only round 2 or conference finals, and it's not the elite. But that being said, I'm gonna put Mantis up in the top here of the Ed tier, down a little. I'm gonna put him with Palm and Evan. I think Mantis gets slept on. I actually think he's a really good GM, and he's got his little area. He likes to, like his style, which is to sell out for old guys, compete, and then reset, and he's done that a bunch. And like, when you might think like, holy shit, Mantis is bad, but when you look at how often Mantis has gone to round 2 or farther, he compares very favorably to a lot of these guys here. I think Doc, has probably the best playoff record of all these guys, and so Doc might be the guy who's getting disrespected out of all this. But when it comes to Mantis, I think people will think Mantis is getting slept on when he's actually gone to round 2 like 6 or 7 times since he's joined. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's gone to round 2 6 times, which again I think compares very favorably to a lot of these other guys. Like Doc, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In that same stretch of time. Granted, Doc has done stuff prior to all of that. So Mantis, respect. I like Mantis. Okay, next up, Mr. Blue Purple. It was so funny. Everybody knew who this fucking was the minute I did it. Not even subtle. Tim, luckiest GM on the planet. Everybody's fucking plus DCing. Gail Thomas, pop purple. Pat Williams, pop purple. Did he have Hyman Bates where he got a plus DC too? Shit, he might have. Everybody on this fucking team is just popping plus TCs fucking all day. Kojamaka plus TC. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. This is like, it's bananas. And what's funny is like, Tim always sucks too, like comparatively to the talent he has. This year, I mean, he could win. His talent is overpowering. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like the man's got like so many guys that I think are beastly on great contracts. Like outside Hyman Bates, who is a very, very good player, but is also getting paid quite a lot. He's got like Kojamaka for $3 million a year. Kojamaka's a beast. He's got Gail Thomas for $7.5 million a year. Gail Thomas is a beast. He's got Patrick Williams for $18 million a year. Patrick Williams is a beast. Maybe the single most versatile 1 through 4 defender in the entire league. I mean, like, his roster is fucking crazy. And it's not like he made any of these moves to make his roster crazy. He just fucking tanked and got these dudes. And, like, then they all plus TC. He did make a move for Hyman Bates, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess respect for the Hyman Bates move. But it's not like he's been producing all that impressively with these guys. If we look at his track record, He's gone to round 2 twice in the last forever. He went to the conference finals once before that. That was way back though. So like this recent iteration of Tim, he gets talent, he wins 50 games, and he doesn't do shit in the playoffs. And so the thing is, especially with Tim, where I feel like he's had a lot of breaks, I want to see more than that. Tim falls solidly into the what is round 2 tier. I'm actually going to do a little swap-areno here. I think Ed has played slightly better than Tim, although I think they're both quite bad. And I'm going to put Tim at the very bottom of what is round 2. In terms of results, this is probably the greatest disrespect I've given so far. But honestly, like, the fact that Tim hasn't done more with what he's had offends me. Like, I would kill to have the fucking roster Tim has right now. And he's sitting on all his picks. It's fucking crazy, dude. There's so much value right now. So I'm a little jealous, but that aside, I think Tim sucks. It's like he's better than the people who are the true trash of the trash. He recognizes his talent. He's not moving like wildly backwards. Tim's problem is he's like just stuck in time. He just doesn't do shit. Tim, you got to do more. Like when you have this many assets, you need to be consolidating into a championship team. Sell everything you've got. Try and win. Or build something around your 2 critical guys, and I'm sure you will try, but I'm sure you're going to make like 5 fewer trades than you need to, and it's going to take you 3 times longer than it needs to take. So that's how I feel. Next up, Tom Cable, the big O-line coach. It's our boy Jack, 30th GM in the league. Jack may not end up 30th in these rankings, but he hasn't done a lot to get that far from there. Jack took over the Sixers, and he tanked a couple years, and now he's got a team that's going to try and compete. And to give him some credit, it is a solid team. He's going to win 50-some games probably. His differential is pretty questionable. It's 4.4. I also don't think he's sold out for this season, although he has some impending questions about like how he's going to manage his cap, like what's he going to do with Riley Golden. If he pays Riley Golden, how's he going to pay Swank and Swanson? And he's already sold all his picks, and he looks like I think he's going to lose in round 1 this year. And I could see him maybe being a round 2 team in the future years, but like he's got cap problems already. I don't see how he's going to flip any of this into a like strong team. Jack tries, he thinks about his team, he wants to make moves, but it's like it always feels like despite the good effort and the strong desire to play well, his ideas are always fundamentally flawed. The example this time was the whole Riley Golden acquisition. He straight up just acquired Riley Golden a year too soon. I don't know what his expectation was, given that it was Riley Golden on a TBD extension. But like, no matter what happened with Golden, like Golden offered, he's going to basically require a max. The problem with that is that, like I said, now he's got all these young dudes who are still filling out that aren't like ready to compete yet. Like Swanson and Swank both need a couple years, and it's like, they're going to demand max contracts, and you won't be able to pay Riley Golden. And that's forgetting the fact that Riley Golden, who's pretty athleticism dependent, I think, is going to will fall off athletically right around when those guys enter their prime. So again, it seems like Jack sold out because he got excited, and I think that's a pretty common theme amongst every iteration of the Jack Bucks is that he sells out a little early, and it just never comes together. Like, there's a lot of energy going places, but it's not going in the right places at the right time. So Jack needs to always focus more. And so for that reason, Jack's going to end up right next to Rick. I really hope that Jack, tries to sell Pratt, sell Golden, sell... I don't know if you sell LaMelo. He's kind of bad. I don't think he has value. Sell Mont if you can. I hope he just sticks with Swanson and Blazer. Swanson and Swank. And tries to rebuild one more time around them. Go younger one more time. Because, I don't know if he can... Riley Golden is almost a lost cause at this point. It was fun for a season, and he's going to have a fun team. But, I just don't see... The total value Jack owns right now is not high enough to be a true contender. His only hope is to build around these young guys and hope that they blossom into something greater than what we expect, which is why I would sell the older guys, try and consolidate around those young dudes, and work from there. So that's what I think he should do. I don't know if he's going to do it. But either way, Jack went to round 2 once or twice, and I think that's all we're going to see with this iteration of the Sixers, unfortunately. Next up, we got Kyle. So, Kyle, who's been pretty well respected as like a good GM. Just came out of his long tank. He tanked for four seasons. So when I say long, compared to other people, it's actually not that long. And he pulled out of the nosedive, and it's going okay. He's going to make the playoffs. He's going to get eviscerated in round one. The outlook for his team is like, it's interesting. Aaron Johnson, who was the number 1 pick, and I'm not sure if he's plus TC because I don't have the stats from last season because I missed them. But I believe that Aaron Johnson is like an okay player, and his whole team is like okay, and it's kind of mismatched in age. It's like you got Barney Dimmick, who's about to like enter like the final years of his good career, while Aaron Johnson still has a couple seasons before he becomes great, and like Barney Dimmick is on this garbage contract that's going to really harm the rest of his team. Like the cap that Kyle will have to figure out this coming season, it's going to be really dicey. He's got problems. I don't know if Aaron Johnson is going to take 20 mil. And then he's not going to have a lot to fill out the rest of his roster. So all that is a long-winded ass way to say, like, I think the most recent era of what Kyle's done has been okay. But I actually think it was like, I don't know if misguided is the right word, but it never felt like it was going anywhere. It felt like it was kind of shitty the whole way through, and I don't know what he was waiting for. But it felt like he never was getting a bunch of great assets. He was kind of being a little too hands-off with the entire process. And for that reason, I think Kyle's going to take a little bit of a knock in my rankings. I think Kyle, with the J-Mart era, was necessarily overrated, but like when I look back, he was a round 2 conference finals staple. But how much of that was because J-Mart was a GOAT versus Kyle being great? So Kyle's going to take a knock. Kyle is also going to find himself in the middle of the ed tier, not in the high ed tier, the middle ed tier. And so this is a downgrade for Kyle. And I think Kyle's capable of better. It kind of feels like, I'm not entirely sure why, but Kyle like has fallen apart. He hasn't been the old Kyle. And like I see a pretty bleak future for this iteration of his team. I don't know what he's going to do. We'll see. Maybe he can prove me wrong. But Kyle, welcome to the middle of the pack. Next, the bone breaker. Kyle has been like a GOAT tier GM previously, and Kyle, as everybody knows, did his own little tank that he's only kind of come out of. Like, he's tanked for 3 years, he's not going to make the playoffs this season, and it's unclear what the fuck is going on with this team. His team is a catastrophe right now. He's caught some terrible breaks with TCs, I believe, but at the same time, he's tanked for 3 years, but he hasn't like fully tanked. He's like mid-tanked. I don't know. He's been like very directionless, and I suspect Jesus, my voice. And I suspect that might have something to do with him having a little baby child. And so that obviously can make it a little hard to be a good GM in the league. And if that is the case, it's shown. It's just like Kyle is churning, but to what end? He doesn't own any real good picks right now. He has one first round pick. It's not even his own. When you look at talent, like, I don't know if he owns a single legit top talent guy. Like, this is, for a guy who was a top GM, Kyle has basically played like, if you just ignore the past, and I'm not going to ignore the whole past, but as a thought experiment, if you ignore the past and you only look at what he's done since that last time he went to the finals with like the Riley Furta team, or was it the Piggy team? He had Piggy and Furta. This is going really poorly. Like, he's due for one of the craziest bad stretches of his franchise, like the worst stretch he's ever had since he's joined the league. And I don't see how he's going to change that around really. So Kyle's getting a big downgrade. I think Kyle will come out of this and do better. But like, when you win between 20 and 40 games for 4 years in a row, that's really bad. Like, again, that's about as bad as I think you can do it. I think you always want to be either winning less than 20 or more than 40. He's in purgatory. So when I do my little Zach analysis, like, what Kyle has done is the worst thing you can do as a GM. So balancing that with the fact that Kyle's consistently been making the finals, he made the finals with that random team, the conference finals, he's won games here and there. I'm going to put him in the Giannis and Zach tier. Kyle is getting kicked out of the God tier because I'm really not a fan of what he's done recently. If that's because he just can't be active, I understand. These are tough rankings. You got to make tough calls. I am not here to judge how much effort you're putting into the game. Just judge how good of a GM you've been. And so next we got Mr. Trees, Jake, Warriors GM, and Jake is, excuse me, is supposed to be on the come up after a really fucking ugly set of seasons. I mean, he made the playoffs last year, and I liked his team quite a lot. He made some good midseason trades. It was one good midseason trade, acquiring Smotus. It wasn't a bunch. And then he recently acquired Bobby Boucher, who well, I'll talk about that trade in a second. But overall for Jake, it's been really ugly. Like, Jake has been like absolute bottom tier material prior to this new team, which looks like there's a little hope. I think he's on pace if we look at his current win total to win mid-50s in terms of wins. He won 48 last season, but he was on pace to be well into the 50s with his new team, getting Smotus taking advantage of the Doc blow. Now, for Jake, what's the problem? Jake is kind of like Jack in the sense that I feel like he's got the energy, but the ideas are misguided. The most recent idea would have been the Bobby Boucher trade. And so, like, why was Bobby Boucher misguided? Well, if you look at Jake's team, Bobby Boucher kind of breaks the team, right? Like, Bobby Boucher is this offensive powerhouse who needs a bunch of defensive stalwarts around him so that Bobby Boucher can get fed the ball, have crazy high fucking usage, and not let the other team score on him all fucking day. The problem is, Jake doesn't really have that yet. Like, he's got two tolerable post defenders in Kurt Smith and Tracy Ma, but they're not elite post defenders by any stretch. And he's already got Nebo, who fills the role of Bobby Boucher, albeit in a much worse way. So acquiring Bobby was like, I get the general idea that he's trying to go for. I get the whole wanting to, what am I trying to say? The whole wanting to like further his team, sell his assets, consolidate. That's great. But the way he did it is flawed. Like, he needed to line up a Nebo trade, even if it was for a discount to some team to get him like a defensive guard. Like, I don't know what the exact right move is. I haven't had enough time to think about that. But like, we're going to see this. Jake just traded a bunch of golden assets. I got 2 top 8 picks in those 2 Blazer picks for this. And I don't think this furthered him, except for maybe taking him from a first-round team to a second-round team. Like, Jake is still probably the 4th best team in the West behind the Lakers, Nuggets, and Jazz. He got closer to him, but it's not like this put him over the top, and he sold literally every asset he owned. So for all those reasons, I think like Jake is still going to be closer to the bottom than the top, of course. He did raise himself a little bit. Like, I mean, Jake is making the playoffs now. He was never making the playoffs before. So for all those reasons, I'm going to move Jake up to the Jesse tier at the top of the bottom. I think Jake can move even farther up if he figures out what the fuck he's doing with this roster. Like, he's close, but he just needs to like make a few more moves. Like, this team has potential. Everybody's still young. He can move around things and like further this team forward. I think he's still like at the point where he's gaining overall value in terms of what his assets are worth with every ongoing season. So for that reason, like, he can still make roster moves. He can pivot around and he can come up with a team that can actually contend and be like a conference finalist in the West this following season. And I think that's what he's got to do. And that could really start raising his perception and get him to the top of these rankings. Next, Brian. I mean, Brian is the model of consistency. You know, Brian is basically who I thought Hawks Kyle was, except Brian is actually it. Brian is just fucking shitting playoff series victories. The man is a walking 50-win season. He hasn't missed the playoffs for 10 years now. It's going to, or maybe that's 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 plus this year. So he's not going to miss the playoffs for 12 straight years. Granted, this team doesn't have quite as much going on, but still, he's just turning water into wine. I mean, like, this team is built around a dying Ricky Bobby, and here he is with fucking Rosebud Johnson dropping 17, 18 points a game on 66% true shooting. Like, what the hell? So who knows if he's even going to tank or he's just going to keep churning his way through this. And he's got a couple assets. He has 2 first-round picks. It's not a ton, but he's got something. Needless to say, Bryant basically has it all. You could argue that he should have been the favorite to win the series against me last season to go to the finals. I think it was a 50-50 matchup, but he had a contender. That's the point I want to illustrate more than anything. Less relevant who won that series. He had a contender, and he's had a contender. Like the whole Ricky Bobby era, he's found a way to consistently contend. He's only lost in round one twice in the Ricky Bobby era. That's crazy. He's gone to the finals, 3 times, or 2 times. He went to the conference finals, additional 3. All the stats are bananas. So for all those reasons, Brian is going up with Max, where Max I feel like is the ultimate GM. Max knows how to make the blockbuster trade. Like Max is the master of the blockbuster trade. Brian is the master of literally everything else. Brian's the best churner in the league. He might be the best coach in the league. He's definitely the best schemer in the league of like coming up with players who will fit well in a scheme. Look at Rosebud Johnson. Look at Robert Strauss. Will Malou. All these bargain bin dudes who are just balling out right now. I just love what Brian does, the way he plays the game. I think he plays the game a lot the way I played the game, and I just give Brian more cred because I can't be the dude who ranks himself number 1. I'm not that much of a jackass. So I'll live vicariously through my ranking of Brian and call him number 1 or tied for number 1 with Max. It's just an all-around rock solid fucking GM. You gotta love it. So I'm excited to see what he's gonna do next. Maybe he tanks, maybe he doesn't, but he's gonna have to move on from Ricky Bobby eventually. And while Ricky Bobby was good luck, I mean, what he did with Ricky Bobby totally justifies the good fortune he had. He did more than enough to make that worth it. Next, we're getting near the end, and we have Tommy Thunder. So Tom, good for him, finally made the playoffs after having never made them. He made them twice, actually. Won 50 and 53 games. Did not win a playoff series, unfortunately. But I hope it was a good learning experience. The whole acquiring Gel, seeing what Gel could do for you, that was good for Tom. But there were also bad moves. I already harped on it in the main thread, but I thought the whole getting rid of Gel and Singleton was a big mistake. I think Singleton was a really good asset, and I think Jesse got a great deal. But overall, Tom made the right move in tearing it down. If you're going for the championship aspirations, which Tom clearly wants, it was the right decision to trash that roster. It had no hope of anything beyond maybe a round 2 berth, ideally. I think he could have been a little more tactful with it, gotten more assets, or given away less to get his picks back. Just be more, not stingy, just more efficient with your trades. So he got some assets, but you look at it, Tom basically tore down, and outside of his own picks, he has 3 other picks, none of which are super high outlook. I don't think any of them look like lotto picks. Granted, he still has some players who might have value. He has Del Hunter as kind of his money asset, and Jack Jackson kind of is a money asset, but I think August Ben's making $34 million a year, Pritt Mantooth and Sherwood Kane, an expiring Sherwood Kane I might add, those aren't guys that I really see getting, maybe Benz gets a garbage first, maybe. So it's not I think he has a lot of other value sitting on his roster. I think Del Hunter could be worth a tolerable first. And Jack Jackson is probably worth a tolerable first as well. But when I look at the total asset value he got when he tore down, he seems short in the total value. Not terrible, but not great. So that combined with just what he did in the Gel era, which was what I would have expected him to do, but it wasn't better. And if you look at Gel's stats, he didn't necessarily do a lot with Gel. Gel had his worst years there. So I think, excuse me, when we look back at the Gel era, or not the Gel era, the Gel era on the Thunder, Jesus, I cannot speak. It's the best thing Tom's done, but it wasn't very good. So Tom's top of the bottom of the heap, along with Jake and Jesse. I think them putting in effort, they're getting better slowly. Tom's getting better, Jake is getting better, they're learning, they're being more thoughtful about their moves, but they still got to prove that they know what the fuck they're doing. And then we've got our final person, Adam. The Stitches era is over. Thank God. Other people are going to the finals. Adam somehow is 500 with this team that is just fucking trash. Honestly, it's kind of crazy. Excuse me. Adam won a shitload with the Stitches era. There's no taking that away from him. But I was thinking about, like, how did Adam do? Like, what should I rank Adam? And I think I had Adam near the top of the God tier. And I'll just get to the hard news first. He's going down. Why? Because Adam picked sentimentality over winning, right? Like, what Adam should have done is in 21-16, right after Stitches had a God tier year, in 21-16, this is when Adam lost in the finals, and Stitches went and had like her best season, scoring like 37 points a game on 65% true shooting, which is bananas. He should have sold everything. Like, maybe he should have waited one more season to see it all like really fade away. But Stitches should have, or Adam should have sold Stitches and all these guys and like gotten value and started the tank. And he hasn't done that. And so like when we look at what Adam has right now, he basically has his own picks and no other assets and a dead team. So I totally get why he did it, and I don't hold it against him. Like, Adam is a guy who plays for the narrative just as much as he plays for the game. And it's a great narrative keeping your Hall of Famers. And actually, I wonder if Hattie will be a Hall of Famer. That's a very interesting question. Stitches is obviously a Hall of Famer, there's no question, but I think Hattie will be a dicey one, right on the edge, because our Hall of Fame has been quite stingy. But back to the ranking point, he picked the sentimentality, and like when you look at the God tier GMs, like the 3 people that I have in the God tier, their stats are quite elite. And Adam's stats are right about there. However, this round 1, this missed playoffs and another missed playoffs, which is what he's about to have, and he's probably going to have another one because he's got to sit out these contracts one more year where they're really just going to tear him up. That's the type of gap. Plus, he's going to need time to rebuild. Those are the types of gaps that I think take you out of the God tier. It's that simple. So you got to be ruthless. Max, Bryant, and Brian are all ruthless. And so, oh Lord, I just went off the thing. Bring it back. There we go. So because of all those reasons, I'm going to take Adam out of the God tier. Like I said, I want to be stingy. I want to make these rankings more recent. And I'm not like totally discounting the 4 rings he just won with Stitches, but like I don't want to be putting everybody in the God tier. I want to start nitpicking, figuring out reasons to change these rankings, and so I'm doing that. Adam, you're going to the top of the Zach Loves to Hate tier. And so I think the biggest thing for Adam is like just figuring out how to not take 12 seasons to rebuild. And maybe he will, and that's fine. And it's like, do whatever you want, but you're going to drop the ranking. So the disrespect is being put there. But these are the new rankings. It's interesting. I didn't come up with the list beforehand. I made a soft list in my head, and I had some notable guys who I knew I wanted to move up. Like I noted I wanted to put Ken higher, and like I noted I wanted to put Gasper and Adam a little lower. But these are the rankings I've got. I hope they're nice and controversial, and I hope you stop playing like shit and get better at this goddamn game, because it's fun when we're competitive. I really enjoy it. So that's all I got for you this time. Hope you enjoyed the rankings, and as always, go Sonics.